May I apologize for the inconvenience I understand you've suffered. There was a bit of miscommunication about the start of this event. It was always originally scheduled to start at 3 o'clock. I understand you were told a much earlier time. Our apologies. The Honorable Ashni Singh, Mr. Christine Anderson, Mr. Alexander Novalev of Creditinfo, Mrs. Judy Semple Joseph, CEO of Creditinfo Guyana Inc., Mr. Faulkner of Creditinfo Guyana Inc., banking manager and other colleagues of the Bank of Guyana, members of the media. I welcome you to this brief, simple, but importantly symbolic event in the financial history of Guyana. We are assembled to witness the formal handing over of the license to Creditinfo Guyana Incorporated to operate a credit bureau in Guyana. The credit bureau is an innovation in the financial architecture of Guyana, and we expect it to the growth of the economy. It has been a long journey to today's event. Many of you will know that the Credit Bureau project grew out of the Financial Sector Assessment Program that was conducted in 2005-2006, and the first Economic Summit in 2007. Both the FSAP and the Economic Summit recommended the Credit Bureau amongst a menu of measures to improve access to capital. It was posited that deficiency in credit information is a significant contributory factor to the prevailing low level of bank intermediation. Attention was drawn to the difficulties faced by small and medium-sized enterprises with limited or no acceptable collateral, and a large segment of the population that is unable to access credit due to the absence of reliable credit history. With the assistance of the IFC, the private sector arm of the World Bank, legislation was drafted and enacted in 2010 to provide for the establishment of a credit reporting industry to facilitate the provision of information about potential borrowers from a credible source. The aim is to enable more reliable, competitive, and responsible lending while protecting borrowers' rights. The Credit Bureau is therefore intended to compile the credit history of consenting consumers using information supplied by credit providers such as banks, trust companies, the building society, hire purchase companies, public utilities, and other sources. Access to readily available credit history of consumers provides benefits to the lending institutions, the consumers, and the overall economy through behavioral changes in lending, borrowing, and the management of finances. Consequent upon the enactment of the legislation in 2010, the task of operationalizing a credit bureau commenced with the Bank of Guyana inviting 6 international credit bureau operators to submit requests for solution. 4 responses were received and 2 shortlisted after a team comprising representatives of the Bank of Guyana and the IFC undertook the painstaking job of evaluating the applications of the respondents. Careful attention was paid to the technical proposals, included the IT solution and the security of data. Also, the experience of the service providers, their financial strength, and operational flexibility. Arising out of this process, Creditinfo International, a subsidiary of the Creditinfo Group of Iceland, was selected. The due diligence exercise leading to the eventual decision to issue a license was meticulously undertaken. The Bank of Guyana is satisfied that Creditinfo Guyana Inc. has met all the criteria set and accordingly consulted the Honorable Minister on the issuance of a license to this entity. This license, having been signed on July 15, 2013, is formally being handed over today to Mr. Christian Anderson, one of the directors of the company and the driving force, if I may say so, behind the establishment of the Bureau in Guyana. We, at the Bank of Guyana, as regulator of the Credit Bureau, wishes Creditinfo Guyana Inc. every success in its operation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now invite Mr. Anderson to make brief remarks.
We at the Creditinfo family, we are extremely proud of this milestone. The process leading up to this day has been quite extensive, and we believe that Creditinfo is soon ready to serve the Republic of Guyana with world-class credit reporting services. The foundation is ready. At this moment, Guyana will be the 16th country that Creditinfo is currently operating a credit bureau in. Based on the framework that Guyana has now in place, the stage is set for a very successful venture that will contribute various benefits to consumers, companies, entrepreneurs, and the economy as a whole. Easier access to credit for consumers, lenders will have more information and more accurate information to make credit decisions. Impressive individual credit histories will help entrepreneurs to get loans for the great business idea. Good credit histories will be rewarded over time and interest rates could come down. Increased consumer satisfaction because lenders will now be able to provide better and faster service when processing credit applications. In the near future, borrowers will eventually be less likely to need collateral or guarantors when applying for loans. Consumers who previously had difficulties to access credit due to the lack of collateral will be better positioned to do so, provided they can demonstrate a good credit history and a good credit score. Our credit reporting system will improve credit risk and credit portfolio management, enhance financial supervision, and financial sector stability and access to credit. We at Creditinfo Guyana will strive to ensure responsible lending and borrowing, which is particularly important in a growing economy like in Guyana. We are delighted to have the opportunity to contribute to the efforts of the government to create a sound financial infrastructure. We thank you for this opportunity.
Christian, I will now invite the Honorable Dr. Ashton Singh to make brief remarks.
Our visiting friends for whom Guyana will soon be a new home, our visiting friends from Creditinfo, ladies and gentlemen of the media. First of all, let me say what a great privilege it is for me to be able to participate in this afternoon's handing over ceremony. And whilst it would be understandable for one to think that this is a small occasion, I believe it would be a grave mistake to conclude that today's ceremony is insignificant in any way. In fact, I believe that what we're witnessing today is an extremely important historic milestone in the development of Guyana's financial system and the financial sector. We have, of course, and much can be said about the efforts made to modernize our financial system, and indeed much progress has been made. Today we have a strong, well-regulated, well-managed financial system characterized by institutions that have extremely strong balance sheets and that comply with the strictest of prudential standards, institutions that have proven themselves over the years. This is, of course, a result of the concerted efforts made by the Bank of Guyana over the years to ensure sound regulation. But we've long recognized equally that there exists significant room for more efficient and broader intermediation of the financial resources held by financial institutions licensed in Guyana. In fact, it has long been said that the financial institutions in Guyana are awash with liquidity. And indeed, if you speak to the management of most of the licensed financial institutions in Guyana, they will say to you that they are looking for good lending opportunities. If you speak with what I would call the real sector, the producers of goods and services in Guyana, they would say to you that improved access to financing would be perhaps one of the most significant contributors to their accelerated growth and expansion. And so they are looking, increasingly, producers of goods and services in Guyana and potential producers of goods and services are looking to mobilize and raise financing to expand their operations. Marrying these two, bringing together the fact that financial institutions are looking for good lending opportunities and the fact that potential borrowers are looking for financing and more access, more easier, more affordable access to financing. Bringing these two together has been an objective that we have recognized the importance of for some time. We have in Guyana, notwithstanding the development of our financial system, still a significant population who would have over the years established very strong credit track records, but not with the formal financial system. We have, for example, tens of thousands of Guyanese persons who are responsible borrowers, who every month have bought goods and services on credit, including some that might seem obvious, including things like utilities, many of which are paid for after they're consumed, and including high street vendors like stores that offer hire purchase transactions. Every day, thousands of Guyanese persons execute these transactions, and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Guyanese persons have accumulated very strong credit track records, but have not taken the leap to move from the point of routine retail credit from, say, a hire purchase credit provider to walking into a bank, a formal financial institution, a licensed financial institution, and borrowing for the purposes of acquiring a capital asset or borrowing for the purposes of establishing or expanding a business, including many persons who potentially are small business owners. And this is a lacuna, this is a gap that the establishment of a credit bureau in Guyana has the potential to address. The fact that we have this large population of responsible borrowers with demonstrated responsibility on the basis of their hire purchase transactions, their utility transactions, etc. and indeed sometimes on the basis of a microcredit loan that they may have taken, or a housing loan that they may have been servicing for many years of the building society. All of these persons are potential borrowers in the banking system, potential business opportunities to the banks that operate in Guyana. But for want of easy verification of credit worthiness, or indeed sometimes just the perceived hurdles that are associated with borrowing from a bank, many of them have never taken that leap. We believe that the establishment and coming into operation of a credit bureau will significantly improve the ease with which persons and institutions will be able to access credit in Guyana. The ease with which financial institutions and potential lenders will be able to verify credit worthiness is significantly improved, will be significantly improved with the establishment of a credit bureau. The ease with which and the cost at which individuals will be able to take a loan, including loans, like I said, for the establishment or expansion of a small business, will significantly improve with the coming into operation of a credit bureau. This is the thinking that was the basis for this government taking to Parliament in 2009, 2010, the credit reporting bill that was subsequently to be passed by Parliament and subsequently to have become what is now known as the Credit Reporting Act 2010. And I recall at the time having the privilege of chairing the Special Select Committee of Parliament that considered this bill, and the considerable, indeed unanimous optimism that was shared in that committee about the potential benefits of this piece of legislation coming into force and the eventual licensing of a credit bureau in Guyana. The Act having been brought into operation, the Bank of Guyana, which is the agency statutorily charged with administering this Act, proceeded to launch the process of inviting RFPs, receiving proposals, and evaluating them, including with international support, advisory support from the private sector arm of the World Bank, the International Finance Corporation. Governor Williams has spoken about the process, and I'm not going to repeat that. But I'm delighted to say that of the 6 international credit bureau operators that were invited to submit proposals, 4 submitted proposals, 4 well-established, recognized and respected international credit bureau operators. I have no doubt that it was a highly competitive process. I have no doubt that Creditinfo was competing against worthy competitors. I know some of their company names, and I know that some of them are large international operators. Clearly, Creditinfo competed well and was able to surpass the others, their competitors, in the evaluation process. I believe it is to our collective credit that 4 of those companies were interested in coming to do business in Guyana. And I believe it is to our collective credit that Creditinfo itself, by no means a small operator, when Creditinfo's operations come into existence in Guyana later this year, Guyana will be the 15th jurisdiction in which Creditinfo will be operating, and in fact the 2nd jurisdiction in the Caribbean. I'm advised, in fact, that you have recently obtained a license from the authorities in Jamaica. So Guyana, in fact, is your 2nd Caribbean jurisdiction and your 15th international jurisdiction in which you'll be operating. Let me say to our colleagues from Creditinfo that we're delighted that from as far away as Iceland, you identified Guyana as a place in which you wanted to do business, sufficiently so to submit a proposal, to advocate that proposal, to go through the rigorous licensing process that I know the Bank of Guyana would have subjected you to, and now finally to have concluded the acquisition of a license from the Central Bank. I want to thank you very much, thank the Creditinfo family for the interest that you've shown in Guyana. for the confidence that you have clearly in the business environment in Guyana to have demonstrated this interest to come to Guyana. We welcome you to Guyana. We believe that you are on the verge of making history. You're introducing a brand new service to our financial system that will, like I said, literally empower thousands of Guyanese persons to be able to get their first bank loan. That's a very important. So this isn't only a business opportunity for Creditinfo, but it's also potentially a transformational opportunity for the lives of individual Guyanese persons. We welcome you to Guyana. We say to you that we expect the strictest of standards and the highest of quality in your operations. The operations of a credit bureau, much like a licensed financial institution, are very sensitive, need to be managed very professionally in adherence with the strictest of standards. The integrity of your operations, the quality of your methodology and the rigor of your methodology, the consistency of its application, the integrity of the data that you use, the security that you apply to the data that will be in your custody, will all be things that we expect you will apply the highest and most rigorous of standards to. And in this regard, I would exhort you to ensure that those standards are adhered to. We believe that we have every confidence that you will bring to Guyana the same high standards and high quality of service that you have displayed in every other jurisdiction in which you've operated. And we believe in so doing, you will prove yourselves worthy recipients of today's license, of the license that you're accepting today. Let me say equally to the Central Bank that you're entering, Governor, your institution is entering a new realm of operation, because for the first time you will be regulating and supervising the credit reporting industry, or a credit reporting industry in the form of a credit bureau. That's a new responsibility. And I equally exhort you and your financial sector supervision staff to approach that responsibility with the diligence for which the Central Bank has already become so well known and so renowned. I have equally no doubt that the Central Bank will continue to apply its well-known rigor in discharging the important supervisory responsibilities that devolve on you under the Credit Reporting Act. Let me say too that the private sector, in particular providers of credit, have an extremely important role to play in ensuring the success of this endeavor. And I hope that all of the providers of credit have signaled their intention to participate in the Credit Bureau initiative. Because in fact, the richness of the Credit Bureau's database will significantly be influenced by the number of institutions participating in data sharing. And by this I mean, I would like to think, and I certainly hope, that all of the banks, all of the other credit providers, including hire purchase providers, and any other traditional or non-traditional providers of credit, I would certainly hope that they are all on board. And if they're not on board, that they should certainly be encouraged to come on board to ensure that we have as large a database as possible, as rich a data set as possible, to inform the work of the Credit Bureau. And Governor, that is something that I suggest that we immediately focus some attention on to ensure that we have the widest possible participation. I have no doubt that this initiative, like I said earlier, I have no doubt that the coming into operation of a credit bureau will significantly improve the ease with which Guyanese businesses and Guyanese individuals have access to credit, and by extension, by logical extension, will significantly contribute to economic growth and development in our country. And so once again, with those remarks, I wish to welcome Creditinfo Guyana Inc. and the Creditinfo family to Guyana. Again, I wish to compliment you on your success in outcompeting 3 reputable international competitors. and I wish you every success in your operations in Guyana. Thank you very much.
Stand by the flag. Yeah.
Questions for us in the Creditinfo Guyana team?
And just in terms of the scoring, how would it operate in terms of, we know in terms of the rating and the scoring, how would that become operational?
How?
The scoring in terms of what, is it like 100 out of 10 out, whatever, in terms of the ratings, in terms of the scoring? Or how you know you're a good credit person then?
For now, there is a model, a generic model that will be used. I think the range is from 200 to 900. 900 being the maximum.
Actually, how soon will you be starting work?
Well, we plan to go live on September 27th. That is meaning uploading the data that we are in the process of gathering on that date. But we will be open to the public from the 1st of December.
Could you say how many institutions and agencies are on board with you?
Pardon? I think
How many institutions and agencies are on board with you?
right now,
Uh-huh.
well, we're still in the process of signing. To date, we have signed 5, and we're in the process of negotiating with 4 others who were close to signing. And of course, eventually, we hope to have at least 12 agencies on board by the end of September.
What has been the, how many persons have you contacted so far in terms of getting them on board with you, and how have you been going about doing this?
Well, there is a process and mechanism in place that has been in existence even when the Credit Bureau was being introduced, where all the banks and financial institutions were involved in initiating the process and being aware of that process. So we are now, we have been over the past 3-4 months really sharing with them what is called a subscriber agreement that outlines the terms and conditions of their involvement with the Credit Bureau. And of course, it's not always a straightforward process, but it involves negotiations back and forth. So that process is taking a time, but we are coming to agreements with each of the what we call credit information providers.
I know the minister would have mentioned the non-traditional lending institutions. Could you say how many credit unions and so on?
How many
credit unions would have subscribed so far?
Oh, we've started the discussions with them, but we've not really followed through as yet with much success. We are focusing now on the banks. Our marketing manager has advised that he's doing it in stages. So the first target would be the large banks, and then other agencies down the line.
Another question. This is kind of new to Guyana in terms of a new realm we're entering into international business. Plans for public education campaigns in terms of how do the public get to know, how would I benefit personally from participating? And is it consent? Do I have to give consent to my bank? How would that process work? Or you just collect all the information from the banks and then pool it?
Oh, lots of questions there. First of all, yes, to answer the last question first, yes, the consumers will have to give consent to their various institutions that their data will be stored in. For example, you pay your utility bills, you pay GT&T, GPL, all the entities that you may have a loan with, for example. So those are the credit information providers for us. For them to, not to give, but for us to use the data, you have to, as the consumer, consent to us sharing that information. On the other hand, it is important for you to have, to give your consent so that in the event that you can benefit, from the credit reporting that we are going to give, Because if you don't give consent, then your information will not be there, then you will not be able to benefit from the services that the credit bureau provides. So yes, consent is important, and it's an issue that we have been receiving from the various entities that we deal with. The other question, I can't remember what it was.
Public education.
Public education program. Yes, we are in the process of designing exactly such a program, which will be rolled out over the next few months.
Who pays for the service? Does the individual pay for the service or the agency?
Both. We provide a service to our credit information providers. We have an arrangement with them that they pay us for the service that we provide to them. For a consumer is entitled to 1 free credit report per annum. And outside of that, if they need more than one, they can request it at a cost of $1,000. If there is some issue with their report and for example, and they're challenging the information on their report, they're entitled to a free report, after the process is resolved. Any other hard questions?